Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode. I was going to say on deck, but College Blitz. Here's my man Q. I'm Russ Morgan. I get them confused sometimes, even though it's totally different topics. I'm like, just sometimes you're sleeping your way through it. But Q, we're here. We got rivalry week coming up. A lot of big implications this weekend for conference title games. For whenever we get the rankings released, there's a lot of big implications. How we doing tonight? How we feeling for the weekend? I mean, I'm excited. I know I got a game on Friday to watch. F Arizona State bear down, but there is no title game implication in that game, so it's a little different for you.
Yeah, man. Feeling a little. I don't know if anxious is the right word. I guess, man. Like as a Miami fan, I think you've just been programmed to really dread the end of the season. Under Mario. Based on the way they performed since he's been there in November, December. And then add to that, they're taking a trip to Pittsburgh. Which. If you were watching, the last time Pittsburgh played at home, they took the field against Notre Dame. They didn't really play. They got absolutely, boat raced in that game. And so if you're a Miami fan, right, you got to look at that, and I think, you got to like your chances, I guess. But I think also, really wary in terms of, what are they going to show? Right. It was a little bit of a slow start against Virginia Tech, but they kind of figured it out. And, the offense kind of came to life and they went and did their thing. But, I think overall, aside from that, when we're looking at the slate, for the week, I mean, I definitely think there are, some games to look forward to, right? You mentioned, Arizona State, obviously, one of those that probably a little bit more a West Coast, type of eyes on that one. Ole Miss, Mississippi State. I don't know how close that one's really going to be. I figured the spread would be more in that one. To be honest with you, when I saw it, I think it was only about 6.5, maybe somewhere around there, which I thought was a little surprising. But I don't know if they're maybe taking into consideration, all the stuff going on with Lane Kiffin, possibly leaving Georgia Tech. I think that one, prior to, a couple weeks ago, I think I was probably a little bit more excited about that one. I've always said playing that game at the Benz. Obviously, I'm here in Metro Atlanta. Playing that game in the Benz, I think it's kind of not ideal for Georgia Tech. I think, they would have been better off playing that game at, like I just, that's that.
I mean, in my opinion, it's a college football game. I get the big games. They want to do it there, but I'm like, it's a college football game. You had it in Athens last year. Give them, like, I get it. It's a smaller stadium, but it's their turn to host.
Yeah, I just feel like it kind of takes away from the home field advantage. Whatever home field advantage they would have had.
You can and. Well, first off, speaking about Pitt, I mean, yeah, they get absolutely shellacked by Notre Dame, but then come back and hang a 42-point on Georgia Tech and basically ruin their hope, any type of hopes they had of making the college football playoffs.
Yep.
Because even ACC's wild. I mean, there's a lot of wild conferences right now. ACC is like who the hell knows what's going to happen there. I mean, the ACC SEC scenarios. But I mean, I was going to talking about that being played. I think there's just something different about going to a college football game in a college setting or in a college football, not in an NFL stadium. Like it's an NFL. It just doesn't have the same feel. I mean, like, yes, UCLA sucks. UCLA is terrible, and they're leaving for some reason, which I get they should leave the Rose Bowl. I love the Rose Bowl.
Where are they going to play at? They're leaving the Rose
Bowl? SoFi. They're not even going to fill up like It's so bizarre. That place
that's weird. That's the first I've heard of that. To be honest with you, I had not heard that.
They ended their lease. They're moving to SoFi, which is bizarre. They can't even sell out like 10,000 seats at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
You go to SoFi, which is SoFi's farther is in Inglewood. It's not like it's easy to get there either. But
I mean, again, that's on campus at UCLA, ain't it?
No.
Oh,
UCLA's in Westwood.
Ah, yeah. Okay, I got you.
So it's a nice little, but it makes no sense because that place is massive. But I mean, like, even going to a game at the Rose Bowl, which yes, was technically at one point like NFL games were played there, but it's got a college feel. Playing a college football game at a college stadium. Yes, the national title game, NFL, but it doesn't have the same feel. It's just like when they do March Madness at an NFL stadium, and it's just not the same. Like when I think of college basketball, I'm like, give me the Cameron Crazies, you give me Chapel Hill. I'm like, it's not the same. A game, I get it. It's smaller. They want to sell more because it's going to be a popular ticket in the state, which I mean, the state probably wants that because that's going to help the economy of the Atlanta metro area and the state in general. But it's just, it's Georgia Tech's time to host. You want to give those students their ability to go to the game at their home field. So I find it a little bizarre.
Yeah. Listen, being in the area, and if anybody not familiar with the Metro Atlanta area, you have the state of Georgia is like a speck of yellow and blue in the center of Atlanta, and the rest of the state is red and black, right? It's a University of Georgia state. When you talk about the fandom and how it's separated. Even at Bobby Dodd, more than likely there probably would have been more Georgia fans if we're being honest. But now at the Benz, they're going to absolutely pack that place out, right? That's essentially their home away from home, right? They're right up the road in Athens, which is an hour-ish drive. And every time they play in the SEC title game, there, right? I mean, they unless they're playing like Alabama, which Alabama obviously shows out really well in Atlanta. But I mean, it's just going to be, I think the Benz seats somewhere, they'll probably seat about 75,000 people for that, and I guarantee you, it's going to be 50,000 of them are going to be Georgia fans. So it's just kind of a shame obviously, I would imagine it means more money for Georgia Tech, but at the end of the day, I definitely think that takes away a little bit of that home field advantage for them. Like you mentioned, right? It was in Athens last year. The right thing would have been, being at Bobby Dodd. But at the end of the day, man, we know who runs college football, and it's the TV networks and the TV networks that you're going to play at the Benz. And that's where you're going to play, right? It's going to be more money for your institution and the whole deal. But I definitely think it takes away from some of the whatever home field advantage Georgia Tech may have had. I definitely think it takes away from that.
Yeah, 100%. But we're probably about 2 minutes away from the college football selection show. Was delayed a little bit. SC beat Seton Hall 83-81, so we're waiting on that. But we got some, big rivalry games. Obviously, we got the Territorial Cup, which, yes, it's a West Coast thing. But I mean, you could have the shittiest year in Arizona history. You could win one game. You beat Arizona State, you're good. You're happy. We got the Egg Bowl. We got Michigan, Ohio State, which, Ohio State hasn't been able to win too many games in the last four years. I want to say they haven't won.
Arizona?
Oh no, Ohio State.
Ohio State. Yeah. They've struggled, man. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about Michigan, man. Michigan just has their number. They just have it. That'll be interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see how that goes. I don't think that game is going to be particularly close, but I guess we'll see.
But they said that last year. Everybody on game day said Ohio State is going to be close for a little bit, and then Ohio State's too talented. They're going to run away. Everybody said that.
Mm-hmm. I got you. I just, listen, man, freshman quarterback going against that defense. I don't know, man. We'll see. We'll see.
We got some great. You got Texas A&M, which – if Texas wins, they're basically out of the SEC title game, which honestly isn't the worst thing in the world. But And their scenario, I think, if they make the title game, they get a top 4 seed. I mean, you got Ohio State, Michigan, you got Miami, Pitt, which will have some implications either way, which somebody's got to lose. Oregon, Washington. I still think Oregon needs to win to get in. Yes, they had an impressive win against USC, but
let's go Washington.
I still think they need to win the game. I mean, technically, Vanderbilt, Tennessee, there's still a shot right now. Vanderbilt's at 14, so there's still an outside shot. They have it at a playoff, making the playoffs. Alabama, Auburn, you got the Iron Bowl, which is big because I can't remember the stat. Alabama is like terrible
in Auburn
at Jordan.
Yeah.
I mean, we got it, and then you got SMU. Cal will have some implications too in the scheme of the ACC this week.
Yeah, that'll be a big one. I don't think enough people are giving that one the credit it deserves. I think Cal is a live dog, as they say, right, in boxing. So they're not going to be a pushover. They got a really good quarterback. That lefty freshman whose name is difficult to pronounce. He's a Hawaiian kid. So we'll see how that one goes. I think if you're a Miami fan, I think your rooting interest there obviously is Cal. So maybe they end up doing a little something to help Miami out. So we'll see.
If Cal wins, Miami handles business. They play Virginia, and Virginia obviously still needs to beat Virginia Tech. It would be Virginia Miami, excuse me.
It would be Virginia Miami, I believe, yeah.
I'm still like everybody's going to be basically all 6-2, so I'm like I think Miami would have it, but I mean,
yeah. To that end, if that happens, from my understanding, then
if they win in SMU and Cal win, Miami wins, Cal wins, it would be Miami, and we assume Virginia.
Yeah. So that's what I gather. If those are the results, then then we'll see. But obviously, everything starts with Miami handling business at Pitt. I think that's something they can do. I think they've showed here, in the last couple of weeks, the offense has kind of turned the corner a little bit. They've opened things up, made things a little bit more creative, and have really, kind of started to look like the offense that I think a lot of people expected them to look like, early in the season. So we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, it's cold. It's going to be cold. It's going to be like mid-30s.
Is high of 36, low of 24 on Saturday.
Yeah.
It's going to be a cold one. See how the boys do from South Florida in the cold, because we know that pro team in South Florida doesn't really play too well in the cold weather.
They're allergic. They're allergic. The Dolphins are allergic to the cold, without a doubt. They are anything. Can't remember what the record is. Anything below 40, I mean, they are atrocious.
Arizona moved up in top 25. Tulane 24. Georgia Tech fell to 23, and they just moved it. I think Pittsburgh was 22.
Well, that's good for Pitt to be ranked.
Definitely.
I like that.
I was, and I been watching a lot of college football talk this week about. Everybody's complaining about Notre Dame, Miami, the head-to-head. But do you think it's better to lose early than like in the middle of the year like Miami did? Like you saw, but Notre Dame lost the first two, and then now they're on a run. Miami lost in the middle of the year. Do you think it's better to lose right off the bat in Notre Dame? In Notre Dame's case, but in everybody else's case, like Alabama, did to FSU right off that. Yeah, they lose, but then go on a run like we're seeing Notre Dame do.
Well, I think the answer is a resounding yes, right? I mean, I think when you're looking at what Notre Dame has done, right? They started off 0-2.
Virginia 18, USC 17, Texas 16. So I'll be interested, but yeah, sorry about that. I just want to get that in.
Yeah. So, if you're looking at what the results are now, I mean, obviously, Notre Dame having started off 0-2, having them still ranked after being 0-2, which, obviously, only Notre Dame can accomplish if I'm being honest, and then you're looking at, the rest of the country and, with Alabama having lost, and obviously, they've looked like a totally different team after losing that game to FSU. So, I think it's a resounding yes, right? I think you're looking at the timing of some of these losses for some of these other teams, and the subsequent drop in the rankings. Obviously, I mean, it pays to lose early, right? And so, again, I'm not going to sit here and beat this drum, about Notre Dame not deserving to get in. Listen, the way they played, obviously, I don't think their schedule is great. Obviously, they've played, two good teams, which is Texas A&M and well, more, right? They've lost. They played USC along with Miami and A&M. They beat USC. Pitt is a decent team. But again, based on their resume and the way they've looked recently, I mean, I'm not going to say they don't deserve to get in. My big gripe, and I posted this on Twitter, and I've talked to other people about it. My two big gripes are BYU and Utah. I don't understand.
We got Michigan at 15, Vanderbilt 14, Utah 13. So right now, Miami has not shown up on the board.
Miami's 12.
Miami at 12.
That'll mean BYU at 11, which, again, man, that's going.
Yes, you want to be probably a 10, but they're still, if they do their job, even if they don't make the title game,
next week.
They're still just do your job, win. I don't see BYU even if they beat Texas Tech.
No, again, the BYU's resume is not impressive. So to me, neither is Utah's. So I just kind of have a hard time believing like Utah, barely beat Kansas State did, and Kansas State's not a good team. Kansas State ran the ball all over them, and again, I just don't think they look good. So again, man, look, you can't get too caught up. If you're the team, if you're a fan, if you're the coaches, whatever the case, if you can't get, too caught up, there's still one more week worth of rankings. And if you don't handle business, then next week's rankings really, don't even matter. Right. So, just like you said, man, look, lock in, practice, do what you're supposed to do.
Yes, I get it. With it's easy to blame the committee and say, oh, we did this, and this. But I'm like, you lost the 2 games. You didn't play good. Now you got it. Yes, you left it up to committee, but all you can do this week is handle business against Pitt. You win. That's all you can really do right now. BYU 11, Bama 10. So we're probably seeing Notre Dame at 9. Oklahoma. It'll probably be all the same from here on out.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, I didn't expect any big surprises, and that's what's kind of coming to fruition right now. And so, there again, man, I think the my gripe continues to be, till next week, my gripe is and will continue to be the BYU and Utah scenario, them being ahead of Miami. Those guys have played nobody, the teams that they play that are good, they've lost to, and so, again, I don't get it. Miami's played a tougher schedule. Miami's beaten better people, and so, there again, man, it's kind of boggling to me, and I don't want to get into the conspiracy theories, but obviously, they replace, one person with a board member from Utah, which is, I thought was kind of interesting, timing, a couple weekends ago. So, look,
if that plays out, Oklahoma 8-9, Oklahoma Notre Dame. Ooh.
Yeah.
That'd be a hell of a first game.
That'll be an interesting one for sure. That'll be interesting.
Talk about a team who definitely did not. I was probably a 30% chance going to that Alabama game to make it. One win changes everything. Now all they got to do is, only you got to play. Not even play the title game, and they're in. Just win this week, and they're in.
Yeah, listen, it's LSU, so I think at the end of the day, you don't sleep on a team like LSU, because I think anytime a team is that talented and LSU is talented, I think they've got a chance. I think when you've got a coaching staff that has that, coaching staff that has nothing to lose. Listen, man, they're going to throw everything at Oklahoma this weekend. So, again, I think if you're Oklahoma, you can't go into that game, overconfident. I think you got to be prepared to see some stuff that maybe LSU hasn't put on tape the entire year. But obviously, rooting for LSU to come through in that game.
This is Ole Miss drops one. They put Oregon's Ole Miss 7, Oregon 6. They really love Oregon.
I don't get it. Oregon literally they beat USC and that's it.
It's Nike money.
What is it? That doesn't to me. That doesn't matter. What does Nike money have to do with viewership and who deserves to be in? Like that. Listen, man, this ain't 20 years ago. That Nike money. Everybody's got money. I know everybody doesn't have money like Phil Knight, but that money don't play. Money doesn't win games. Money does. Look, they got 1,500 uniforms. They pay this and they do that and they have these facilities and they got that and none of that matters. Like they haven't beat anybody other than USC. So again, I just don't understand this love affair with Oregon. Their schedule is soft.
Big time too, dude.
They're what?
They choke in the big time too.
Yeah.
They choke. I mean, they're the best offense in college football last year. Dylan Gabriel was a freak last year. He was and basically the same. Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, Georgia, all in the top 4. No movement there. Right now, dude, I'd love to see that Oregon, Miami right off the bat.
I'd take it.
But
I take it.
The interesting, with all the interesting stuff going on, yes, the SEC is very interesting because you really don't know who's going to be in that SEC title game. But in the ACC, you could have an ACC champion who is not ranked as high as another group of 5, not even make it if they're not ranked higher than whoever the group of 5 is. Which I guessing they're going Tulane as the group of 5 is who their crystal ball.
Yeah. So you're for anybody not familiar with that, I think there's a misconception out there where if you win your conference, you're automatically in, and that's not the case, right? It's the 5 highest ranked conference winners get in, right? And so in the ACC's case, because of the fact that Miami is their highest ranked team, they're more than likely not going to be in the ACC title game, right? The ACC title game more than likely is going to be some matchup that includes Virginia versus, it's probably going to be, what are we looking at? Georgia Tech, or maybe not Georgia Tech, but we're looking at
SMU,
something along those lines, right? More than likely, they're not going to do enough to end up as a more highly ranked team than possibly the 5 winner.
What you would want? I mean, if say Cal loses, which they are. I don't know the odds right now. You want SMU to win because SMU didn't even make the top 25, so they're going to have to make a leap to get into that top 25.
Well, the good thing that Miami has going for them is now Pitt is ranked, right? So, this upcoming weekend, I think that sets up well for them, right? So that they're not a team that's unranked. Obviously, beating Georgia Tech helped out a lot. So that'll go down as a ranked win. So, again, man, look, for anybody who's disappointed, anybody who's complaining or whatever, again, my stance has been from the jump, that the BYU, the BYUs and the Utahs of the world, I think don't belong anywhere near that top 12. And, again, we'll see as the weekend, comes and goes, we'll see where everything falls. And, when the rankings come out next week, then, we'll see if there's a change. BYU plays UCF, and UCF is terrible. So there shouldn't be any real issue there. And then Utah is Utah playing next weekend? I do not see them on the. They play Kansas, or they're at Kansas. I think that's probably more of a chance for something to happen, and even that I don't think it's going to. So again, I think those two teams.
SMU right now is 13.5-point favorite. minus 425 to win, but it is in Cal, so it is a nice 5 p.m. start on the West Coast.
Yeah, we'll see, man. This Kansas is hosting Utah Friday, right? 12 p.m. kick. So, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe they can catch Utah flat-footed, coming off a big Thanksgiving meal or something. Yeah.
It looked like ass against K-State.
They did. They got the ball run all over them, man. All over them. So, again, it's not over yet. Obviously, we see crazy things happen, last week of the season. And we'll see where things go. Texas A&M is at Texas, which is interesting. We'll see which Texas shows up. We'll see which Arch shows up, because I think if Texas wins that game, then it'll be interesting to see what the committee does with that win. And because they love to slurp Texas and they love to slurp Arch, and we'll see what happens there. I think the best thing, again, if you're a Miami fan, the best thing for them is just for A&M to be kind of status quo and win that game, so they don't give them any reason to elevate Texas. But again, no big surprises with the CFB rankings this week. I think it kind of played out the way I expected it to. Miami moves up a spot.
I got a question. I want to throw a jab at all you little Arch flavor right now, but throw a jab at all my NFL people who crowned Arch the Heisman and number one overall pick before he took meaningful snaps. But you think if he puts up another solid game, like I was 18 for 34 touchdowns, 389 passing yards. Yes, against Arkansas, but that's still an SEC opponent. You think he has another good game? You think Arch would if he keeps on continuing to declare?
I think it's a great question. You've seen what he's done the last few weeks, obviously, steadily, kind of, getting better. I don't know that he's done enough, at this point, really to justify, being taken as the first quarterback. I definitely don't see that. I think what he does have going for him is the fact that this year's quarterback class has kind of fallen apart a little bit, right? We talked about beginning of the season and how many of these guys, there was 12, 15, quarterbacks that you were looking at possibly being drafted in maybe the first 3 to 5 rounds of the NFL draft. And, and I don't want to sound like Nostradamus, but, I think we do have it, on record. I think both of us talked about it. I was a staunch.
I was like, what?
We said it. We said it. We threw the flag. Listen. We threw the flag on Nuss. We threw the flag on Kate Klubnik. We threw the flag on Drew Aller. Right?
Fucking hate
we from the jump. Anybody wants to go back and fact check us? We said from the jump these guys were going to be a disappointment, and we were right. So what? Yeah. So when you're looking at, in my opinion, first of all, I think his mind is made up in terms of him coming back to school. I don't see him leaving, right? But if you're looking at what would possibly sway him, would be, hey, if once the end of the season comes around, and now his representation, starts hearing some stuff from the NFL that's going, hey, listen, you come out, you're a top 10 guy, right? And so I don't think he gets taken ahead of guys like Fernando Mendoza, possibly Dante Moore, right? But I think if you're looking at the way that, Lenore Sellers probably isn't going to come out, right? That's another guy who was really, really, he had a lot of hype and a lot of media buzz and everything like that. That's another one that I threw the flag on. I was very on the fence about him. Didn't think he was as great as people were making him out to be. But you look at all these names that have fallen off. And now if his camp starts hearing, hey, listen, if you come out, you're going to be a top 10, pick, then I think maybe he's got something to think about, right? Because now if you're looking at next year's class, you have to start to look at, okay, who are we going to be in contention with in terms of, the top 5 or the top 10. So I don't know. I think he's coming back. I think he's coming back to school personally.
I think first off, I agree. I think he should come back. Second off, Klubnik never saw it. I'm like, this guy, he's a good running quarterback. Not the best passing quarterback, kind of chokes in big game. Drew Aller, you can watch anything that I've been on FTSN. I hate Drew Aller. I've never said a good word about that guy ever.
Yeah. I don't hate him. I just never saw it. I just always thought he was overrated. He just never.
I was like,
He had a good pass. He had a couple good passes here and there, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, Drew Aller!"
In the was it in the playoffs? Like, oh, he's gone in the first round. I'm like, have you watched? That's my problem with everybody. I'm like, they throw on the film and watch the film. I'm like, let's go watch the game. Yeah. What did he do in that? Not just his film.
Well, you're like you look like, and just to correct you, just a smidge. People like I think what you're trying to say is people are watching the highlight reel and they're not watching the games. I think is probably what you mean to say, right?
Oh yeah, well I mean,
because the highlight reel is exactly that. It's highlights, but if you watch the games, you're going. There is no way this guy's a first round pick.
I'm not even talking about people. I'm just talking about like the experts who like maybe not maybe Kuiper probably does watch it. I mean, like they're watching clips. I'm like, what is he doing in live action? I'm
exactly. They're watching highlights. Yeah, they're watching highlights.
You're what? Oh, that was good. Oh, that was bad. But it's not live action. I mean, I want to see him what he does when he has to change something. But in Arch's case, I mean, he's looking. He's now starting to look like the quarterback we thought. He's starting to look on an upward trend. I don't know who in the 2026 scenario for him going to the NFL. I know we're a college show, but I mean, he's a hot topic. Arch Manning's a hot topic for sure. I don't know who is the top quarterback. Yes, Fernando Mendoza's had a great year. Ty Simpson has had a very good year. But even though Fernando Mendoza would have the lowest yards and touchdowns if he wins the Heisman this year, and ever for a player who won the Heisman.
Oh wow!
Like ever, yeah. It's insane. Like he, so like I don't think he will because I think he's got a very good base behind him with his father, his grandfather, his two uncles that are going to be like, hey, come back, get another year under Sark. You're gonna have a chance to win a national title. You're making good money here. I mean, improve as a quarterback type of thing, Peyton did. But I think he could be the first maybe not the first pick, but the first quarterback off the board. I think Mendoza, Moore, and Simpson are the three guys they're saying will be the first QB off the board. Yeah. All have questions.
Yeah, listen, I think you hit it on the head, right? I think to start off with what you were saying at the beginning, Arch is in a position where obviously everybody knows he doesn't have to leave school to support anybody, right? Nobody's counting on Arch to support them, right? He comes from a very well-off family, so money for him is not an issue based on the fact that what he's getting paid isn't going to be, top 10, pick NFL money. But obviously, he's if you hear everything people talk about in terms of like NIL, valuations and which again, how they even come up with that, I have no idea. On3, always, throws up this graphic with NIL valuations. I don't know how they figure it out. But obviously a guy who's making a lot of money in college, right? So would he make more money in the NFL? He would. But he's not in a position where he needs for anything, wants for anything. He's not, sleeping in his car. He's not eating ramen noodles, right? I mean, he's a very well compensated college athlete. So we know that right there isn't going to affect the decision. Now, when you look at, again, when we talked about what this potential draft class looked like at the quarterback position, obviously all the names at the top have changed. Ty Simpson wasn't in the conversation. Dante Moore wasn't in the conversation. Fernando Mendoza was in the conversation, but wasn't a guy who people were talking about with first round buzz before the season started. I think he was a guy who, you were looking at and going, okay, this guy, at best case scenario, like a third round pick or something like that. Obviously, the guy has done, really, really well for himself, at Indiana and what he's shown and everything like that. And then you listen to his interviews. I don't know that there's a more impressive, interview, in the country. The guy is so well spoken, super respectful, super knowledgeable. Just everything about the guy, just screams, like leader, captain. Face of the franchise type guy. Now, it's up to everybody's, it's up to everybody to evaluate the kid and decide whether he's worthy of that higher pick. But in terms of the person, in terms of the character, the guy is as impeccable and as clean as you're ever going to get, in any NFL draft prospect, and that's what you want at the quarterback position, right? So I think that kind of elevates him some. When you look at Ty Simpson, I think kind of the same thing. I think what Mendoza has, over Ty Simpson and over a guy like Dante Moore, and over a guy like Arch, is he started a bunch of games, right? When you look at what he's done, I mean, he started from Jump Street at Cal, so he's definitely got a bunch of starts under his belt. So I think in terms of the experience, I think that's something that he's got over the other three guys. But again, it's all about how you project to the NFL. But one thing is for sure, how many games you start in the NFL has always had a direct correlation with the success rate. You look at guys like Anthony Richardson, Mitch Trubisky, guys who, kind of those one-year wonders and then went and entered the draft and were taken high. But obviously Trubisky has had, a successful career. He's been around for a long time, mostly as a backup, didn't really cut it as a starter, but that was kind of the knock on him. He's like a guy who didn't start a lot of games. And I think there's something to be said about that. So when you're looking at those four guys, I think kind of the consensus would be those four. And I think Mendoza maybe just a step above those guys, given the starting experience. But the name that I've heard more than anybody in terms of anybody possibly coming out was Ty Simpson. That's a name that I've heard who best projects to the NFL with the skill set and the mobility. He's not a big guy, but a guy who processes, layers the ball well, takes care of the ball, a guy who's a leader, is mobile, that kind of thing. So again, I don't think coming into the draft there's going to be a consensus number one guy. I think with those four guys, there's going to be very, very split type of opinions. But, who knows? I don't know if he hears enough to say, hey, you know what, let's come out this year. But in my opinion, I don't think he comes out this year.
Well, I mean, if you do any research or know anything about Fernando Mendoza, I mean, this is a guy who's going to go to Yale before he got – so, I mean, even if you're a football player, getting it, you got to be – even if you're an athlete, you still got to have the grades to get into Yale. They don't care about your athletic ability there. Exactly. And then went to Cal, which is a highly respected academic institution. So he's very polished. Ty Simpson, the same thing, been in the Alabama program for a long time and under Nick Saban when he was there. So he's going to say the right thing. Dante Moore definitely more on the Anthony Richardson side, where he might need a little more game.
A better passer than Anthony Richardson.
A couple more games under there, but I mean, these guys see the money. They all see there. But I mean, if you're looking at I'm a New York Jets fan. I live and die Jets. I'm a nut job Jets fan. It's painful. I love it, but it is very painful at the same time. But I mean, just the names of guys that are going into the draft, not just the quarterbacks, which we need a quarterback. I'm like, hey, we got 3 first-round picks next year. Maybe they're going to be a top 5 pick unless they just start winning. I mean, you got Caleb Downs, who's probably the best player in college football. You got Ruben Bain, who's tearing it up, who's going to be right there in the conversation. You got Delane at LSU, Jeremiah Love, Arvell Reese. I mean, there's some great players in college football, not just on the quarterback side, but the quarterback side dominates it. But I want to get back to college football, obviously, but that was just we got a little sidetracked there, but
yeah, we'll do some draft stuff. We'll do some draft stuff.
Oh yeah, I know
more around the beginning of the year because I love it. I love all the draft stuff, me personally. So
I know my man Bobby Finstock. He loves his draft talk. He loves his draft talk. That's for sure. Oh, yeah. But I mean. So Vanderbilt 14, they got Tennessee this week with an outside chance. They're in Rocky Top. The other one is interesting is what's going to happen in the SEC. Now, I'm not 100% sure. I think Alabama wins. They got the inside track. But obviously the interesting thing is if Texas beats Texas A&M this week, Texas – shows whose big brother's still in the state, then things get really wild in the SEC if one of those teams lose.
Yeah, it'll be all that stuff, man. Coming up this week, I think there's definitely some games that still matter, uh, still matter in the SEC. I think right now the when you're looking at the inside track, I think you're looking at A&M and Ole Miss by my count, correct? I think
Is it
that's
A&M?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe it's A&M and Ole Miss. So I think I think that's unless something if Texas A&M pulls off the upset and I don't know that would knock A&M out of the running. Or no, I think it's A&M in Georgia right now. Yeah, I think it's A&M in Georgia because Georgia's got one loss and it's the Bama.
It all comes down to strength of schedule. It comes to like strength of schedule. And Alabama would, if they win this week, Alabama's got the strongest. It literally is the bizarrest scenario I've ever seen.
Yeah. Right now, I think it's again A&M is undefeated. Georgia's got one loss. Ole Miss has one loss. Oklahoma obviously 2 losses. Alabama 2 losses. So I think right now the inside
Alabama
track,
A&M. If Alabama and Texas A&M went out, it would be Alabama A&M.
Oh no, because Alabama, even if they went out, they're going to be 10-2, and Georgia would be
but
11
one conference loss. One conference loss.
Oh yeah, because their other loss is Florida State. You're right. Yeah. Oh wow. Interesting. Yep.
Very interesting. So if both Alabama and A&M lose in that situation, other teams would have a chance to reach it, and the final would depend on outcomes of other games. It's bizarre.
Man. Look, I just want chaos, man. I just want chaos. Just give me chaos. I want everything flipped on its head. I want some different matchups, right? Seeing Georgia in the SEC title game again. I don't have anything against them. I live in Georgia. They don't, for the most part, don't really bother me. But again, it'd be cool to see, again, A&M and Ole Miss or something like that. Right? Georgia and Alabama.
We got controversy in Oxford too. LSU prepping the $90 million offer for Lane Kiffin. Will he pull another? Let's leave before we get to the playoffs.
Listen, and I was texting with that. I was texting about Lane Kiffin with a good buddy of mine who's actually from Louisiana, huge LSU fan. And we were discussing that, man, and it's really interesting to me how basically every other year we're in this boat with Lane Kiffin, right? It's great to be wanted, right? And when you're looking at what Lane Kiffin has done over the course of his tenure, as head coach everywhere he's been, this stretch that he's had recently, obviously a very successful stretch, at the best stretch that Ole Miss really has ever had, right? Really, 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 good team. Team obviously plays is known for offense, but obviously has played good defense the last couple seasons. But a guy in Lane Kiffin, man, who's never really won anything, right? And so, I guess just like a quarterback, coming into the NFL, right? I mean, you just look at him and I guess you're projecting what he'd be at Florida or what he'd be at LSU, and I guess you get excited, right? If you're a fan of one of those teams, or if you're in the leadership or anything at one of those schools, you just get excited for what a guy like Lane Kiffin can do with the backing of one of those two major programs. I think everything seems to point to LSU, but honestly, man, look, this is my view on that. If I'm Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, you're looking at what has happened at LSU. You're looking at a guy in Brian Kelly who was fired after winning like 35 games in 3 years, right? Obviously never won the ultimate prize. Okay, but then you're also looking at a program in Florida who's fired, a guy like Dan Mullen who was good, right? The guy was winning 9 games, 10 games, and then they fire him, right? So I say all that to say, when you're comparing pressure and you're comparing, expectations, if I'm Lane Kiffin, it's really not about the money, and I say that because he's going to get paid regardless, right? He's gonna, if he stays at Ole Miss, his agent Jimmy Sexton, who runs, the world of college football coaching, right? Because he represents like every big time coach, right? So he's gonna end up leveraging this into a huge extension and huge raise at Ole Miss, right? And then he'll have gotten paid at Florida. He'll have gotten paid at Florida or LSU. Either one of those programs is going to pay him. So all things equal, right? Money's going to be equal. But when you're looking at expectations at Ole Miss, if you win what he's done, if you've done what he's done recently at Ole Miss, right? He's going to get an extension. He's going to get a raise. Everybody's going to be happy, right? And if they fall off a little bit, 7, 8 wins, nobody's going to complain. If you do what you've done at Ole Miss, at LSU, at Florida, but haven't won consistent SEC titles or haven't been in the running in the college football playoff, you know what's going to happen? You're going to get fired because it's about expectations. And at Ole Miss, he'll have created the expectations. He'll have created what that program is currently, right? Because they really haven't been that previously to Lane Kiffin, right? They've had some good years, but consistently they haven't been as good as they've been here recently under Lane Kiffin. So again, he's talked about, his family being comfortable in Oxford, his kid plays football, in Oxford, and the whole deal. And so, but then you follow that up with, his family's been in Gainesville, right? And his family's been in Baton Rouge and they're being courted and they're being shown around, and all that jazz, right? And so, again, you don't know what to expect because different things are being, put out by the media and people in the know and everything like that. And so, I think it's interesting, man. I think it's really interesting to see what's going to happen. My money, surprisingly, I think is on him staying.
Yeah.
I think he stays after all this. I just have a feeling that, he's a little bit older now, right? His kids are a little bit older, everything that people have talked about, with his wife and his family, everybody being comfortable in Oxford. And I think when he really sits back to look at it and you're looking at expectations and you're looking at the money being equal, I think he's going to staying in Ole Miss. And I think LSU and Florida, especially LSU, because it seems like they have all their eggs in the Lane basket, are going to be left scrambling.
I wouldn't leave. What do you think this weighs on the players, though? They're a 7.5-point favorite this week, but you're getting all this talk about your coach getting a $90 million offer. All these guys came to Ole Miss to play for Lane.
Yep. Yeah, I think that has to weigh on them, right? I think, these guys at the end of the day, people don't like to use the word kids, man, but at the end of the day, man, these guys, some of them are as young as 17, and 18 years old. And the older guys are 21, 22, maybe a couple guys that are older, you're super seniors and everything like that. But, listen, man, if pros are affected by stuff like this, you got to figure teenagers are also, right? I mean, it's only natural, right? And when you look at, what that could potentially mean, for you and your college career moving forward, I think it definitely has to weigh on you. I think it has to be in the back of your mind for sure. So, it's definitely incumbent upon that staff to really, set the negativity aside and tell those guys, hey, listen, man, put down the phones, and lock in and focus on this game this week, and everything else is going to take care of itself, right? At the end of the day, if you do lose your coach, you have a window in which you can, pursue other opportunities, right? And so, you take advantage of that. You're not stuck like it used to be a few years ago if your head coach transferred, or left, I should say. And so, I think it's a tough position to be in as a player, but again, man, I think you've got a great opportunity in front of you, man. You're in the playoff, right? You're literally in the playoff. All you got to do is don't botch it. Don't go out and lay an egg. Obviously, no pun intended, right? In the Egg Bowl and lose that game against Mississippi State. Sorry, no pun intended, truly. But just don't go out and mess it up, right? I mean, you're going to be in the playoff at this point. I don't think there's any way they're not in unless they go out and just get smoked by Mississippi State, and then chaos, happens, below them. I think they're going to be in the playoff, right? So they got a great opportunity in front of them. And listen, man, whatever happens with their coach, I can't imagine Ole Miss isn't prepping a candidate list, in case Lane Kiffin leaves. And I can't imagine they're not going to land somebody that isn't a high profile guy that isn't going to be really, really good. I don't know if he's going to be Lane. Obviously, you never know, until, a year or two down the road, what that replacement is going to be like. But man, listen, this isn't Georgia or Alabama or, Ohio State. Like Ole Miss isn't here every year, right? So, you got to lock in, man. The leadership on this team has to stay strong, has to keep everybody united and focused. And, I think if they do that, man, I think they're going to be fine. And they're a team that, I think has as good a chance as any in the college football playoff, man. They're a talented team. This kid Trinidad Chambliss has been really, really good. The defense looks good, and I think they're a team that I think probably scares some people, man, because not only can they play offense, but they can play defense too. So again, man, a great opportunity that they just have to make sure they focus on, and because they can't control that decision with Lane Kiffin, man. Lane Kiffin is unfortunately one of these guys who loves the attention. He doesn't do anything to dispel any rumors. He doesn't do anything to comfort the leadership of any school that he's at. He engages in the back and forth, and he's putting out weird tweets and cryptic tweets and messages and everything. So he contributes to the drama and and the noise, right? He doesn't do anything to quell it. Steve Sarkisian the other day came out and said, "Hey, listen, keep my name out of any of those rumors. I'm not going anywhere." If Lane Kiffin does that, there might still be some rumors and some noise, but it ramps way down if he comes out and just washes.
Lane's got a track record. Lane likes to jump on that Lane train. 100%. Lane likes to jump on the Lane train when he don't think it's going good.
100%.
Even though it is going really good right now, and I mean, and in his time at Ole Miss, yes, they haven't been as this year has been a one-off, but the last 4 or 5 years, Ole Miss has been very competitive. But you know what? A 3-loss team,
Yep.
This year is definitely, different right there, number 7 with 1 loss, and they do their job this week in the Egg Bowl and beat Mississippi State, which we all assume will happen. But Lane likes to stir it up. He likes to, stir the pot.
Yeah, he doesn't mind the attention. And again, listen, Mississippi State has shown
good or bad. He doesn't mind the attention.
And listen, you're going to old Stark Vegas, right? And Mississippi State this year, they should have beat Tennessee, right? I don't, woulda, coulda, shoulda, but they gave away that game against Tennessee at home, right? And they've played some good teams, tough at home, right? And so. This is a game that Ole Miss can't be asleep at the wheel, man. They have to show up. They got to be ready to go, because if they're not ready, Mississippi State isn't a great team, but they've showed. I mean, they're a live dog, and they can beat you at home if you're not on your game. So again, you can't afford to sleepwalk into this game this weekend. You gotta handle business if you're Ole Miss.
I don't know if you got anything else you want to talk about. If you got any last thoughts going into the week. I mean, my last thoughts for teams who are still got to just. I mean, you can only control what you can control. In Miami's case, they can only control beating Pitt.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, in their case, they lost two games, made it a little tougher. They seem to like to make it tougher, like they did last year. They like this last week drama, but I mean, you can only control what's in front of you. I mean, I'm with you. I want some chaos. So give me some wildness going into conference title.
Yeah, I think again, from the Miami side of things, you're looking at obviously they've made it a little bit difficult for themselves. I think this notion of 2 bad losses, I think is a little bit erroneous, right? If I'm being honest, they've lost 2 games. Yes, 2 games they should have won. Yes, but SMU is not a bad loss, and neither is Louisville. I think those they're good teams, especially when you compare their resumes to like a Vanderbilt resume, BYU and Utah resume. Like, it's just crazy that BYU and Utah, again, I continue to go back to that, are ranked as highly as they are, and these other teams aren't. So again, I don't think they're bad losses, but at the end of the day, they're games they should have won. And so they made it obviously, a little bit challenging for themselves. But listen, if they go out this weekend and handle business, then, I think, you can reasonably, possibly expect them to kind of, backdoor their way into the playoff. I think in terms of everything else, man, listen, we blinked and we got to the end of the season, right? We said at the beginning of the season, it's crazy how fast the season goes by. And this year has been no different, man. We blinked, and we're coming into Thanksgiving, which is wild to me. And that the season's over, right? And so that's kind of sad a little bit on that end, because here soon we won't have college football, but again, man, it's crazy how quick time goes by and during the college football season. But we'll see what this weekend brings, and then we'll see what the playoff brings.
My thing is, I don't give a shit about your record. You 10 and if you 11-1, 10-2, whatever you are. are you the best? Like what we saw last year at opening college football playoff weekend, it sucked. There wasn't a good game until that Ohio State Texas game. I mean, there was some. Don't tell me. Oh, Texas, Arizona State was a good football game. I'm like, Texas dominated and then played like crap and let Arizona State come back. There wasn't a good game on the slate. So I mean, like, I just want the best. I don't care record wise. If you're going to give me the best game, being a guy who just loves college football and doesn't really have a dog in the fight, I just want the best freaking game. I don't care about the record. If that's going to put the best product on the field, that's what I want. I don't think BYU, I don't think Oregon puts the best product on the field. I know Dan Lanning's talking some mad smack talk about the SEC, but look at he should do a little backtrack and look at his schedule before he starts talking bad about the SEC schedule having a bye week, because he played a lot of cupcakes, and I know he likes the drama, he likes the attention. That's his style. But I'm like, dude, look inward before you start doing some talking.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think Dan Lanning. I like Dan Lanning. I think he's good for the sport. I think he's a guy who'll talk some trash. Obviously, if you remember, last year and everything he was talking about Deion Sanders, right? And we're here for they're here for clicks. We're here for for wins and whatever that whole jazz was and everything like that. And so again, I think across the board, when you're looking at the way that the rankings play out this year, I think you're going to see better games, right? I think the top four last year, I think was definitely misranked. If that's a word, obviously, with the way they were giving the conference winners, the top seeds and everything like that. Obviously, Boise State being one of them, Arizona State being another one. I think there were definitely some games that weren't the best to start off. But I think this year, with them just being ranked, as they're ranked in the polls, basically, I think you're going to see some better games to start off. And so I think that'll take care of itself. But listen, man, anytime there's a playoff in college, man, I'm here for it. No matter how it breaks down, I'm with you. I want to see good games. I want to see good games. I want to see some upsets. But I think we'll get that. I think this year is going to be, a better start to the tournament.
We brought it up, right? There's a lot more parity in college football than there is last year. There's a 100%. Lot of parity. I mean, 100%. Yes, you have the Ohio States, Indianas, and A&Ms, but they're all beatable.
Yeah.
Last year was definitely Ohio State and then, Notre Dame who came out of nowhere, but it was, Ohio, there's a lot more parity, like we saw, Indiana had a miraculous run last year, and they're doing a great job this year. So it's not a fluke, but I mean, last year was kind of a one-off. So there's a lot of parity in college football. I'm all about it. I love it.
Yeah, 100%.
But
I'm excited, man. I'm excited.
Also with the Dan Lanning, if he's not there for the clicks, why was he putting it out there and recording it? I'm like, you're not there for the clicks, but then you got people videotaping it, so obviously you want some clicks.
Yeah, I think it's a cool soundbite. I definitely think it was a cool soundbite. And I think it ended up playing out because they beat the brakes off Colorado that time. And I think he runs a good program. Again, he's another guy that a lot of people think really highly of, and a guy who really hasn't won a whole bunch in his short time as a coach. But I think definitely one of the better coaches in the country. Without a doubt. So, again, I think he's well within his right to talk, man. And again, it makes for good TV. It makes for good banter, back and forth. And it gives us something to talk about for sure. But, again, man, I'm excited for this upcoming weekend. I'm excited to see where everything lands and where these teams end up and what championship weekend brings and everything. And we'll go from there, man. We'll see if it lives up to it, but I think it'll be a good weekend. I just hate that football season's over, college football season's over, basically. But definitely excited for the postseason and the playoff, and we'll see how it plays out, man.
100%. All right.
Good.
Anything else? I'm good.
Man.
I'm looking forward to the weekend. I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. Watch some football, eat some food.
Yeah, man. Hopefully everybody enjoys time with their family. Hope everybody has a great weekend, man. Happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully you get to share it with the people closest in your life, and you cherish those times, man, because they're not promised, man. Trust me, I know. So from my boy Russ, I am Q. We are College Blitz Podcast, and we will get with you guys next week. So hope you guys have a good night. Happy Thanksgiving, and we shall talk to you guys very soon.